The crying girl in the market, asterisk the sun was red in the sky, burning like fire over the alien market. Strange ships flew above. Creatures with long arms, glowing eyes, and silver skin walked in every direction. The air smelled like hot metal and old dust. In the middle of this busy market stood a little human girl. She was small, maybe 7 or 8 years old. Her hair was messy, her clothes were dirty, and her eyes were full of tears. She stood on a wooden box and shouted loudly, "Please, someone make an offer for my mom." People turned to look. Some laughed, others shook their heads and kept walking. No one stopped. "She will cook you the best food you've ever tasted. Please, please make an offer." The girl cried again. Group of alien children passed by and threw small stones at her. One of them shouted, "Poor Earth girl. Go back to your broken planet." But the girl didn't stop. She wiped her tears and kept shouting. Her voice was tired, but her eyes were full of hope. From the shadows, a tall man watched her. He was not human. He had silver eyes, skin like smooth metal, and a long black coat that touched the ground. His face showed no emotion. He walked slowly toward the girl. "Are you for sale?" he asked in a cold voice. The girl looked up, surprised. "No, sir, not me. My mom. She's the cook. I'm just helping." The man looked at her for a long time. Then he asked, "Why are you selling your mother?" The girl looked down and said softly, "We have no home. Earth is gone. My dad died in the war. My mom says we must survive, and she only knows how to cook." The man didn't say anything. He looked around. People stared, but said nothing. No one helped the girl. Finally the man said, "I'll make an offer. Bring your mother." The girl's eyes lit up. "Really? You're not joking?" "I do not joke," the man replied. She jumped down from the box and ran down a small alley. A few minutes later, she returned with a woman. The woman looked tired, but strong. She had dark circles under her eyes, but her hands were clean and soft. The hands of someone who worked in a kitchen, not on a battlefield. "This is her," the girl said. "My mom." The man looked at the woman. She looked back without fear. "Can you cook for creatures that are not human?" The man asked. "I can cook for anyone who eats," she replied. He nodded. "Then follow me." The man turned and began to walk. The woman and the girl followed him. No one stopped them. No one asked where they were going. They walked for a long time, past shops, metal doors, strange machines. They entered an old building with black windows. Inside, the air was cold and quiet. He led them down a hallway to a door. It opened by itself. Behind the door was a clean kitchen to clean. It had no smell, no warmth. "You will cook here," he said. "You will prepare meals for guests. They come from many worlds." The woman looked around. The machines were strange. The tools were unfamiliar. But the stove looked real. The fire was real. "I'll need ingredients," she said. "You'll have them," he replied. Then he looked at the girl. "And you?" "I help my mom. I clean and chop." "She stays too," the man said. He walked away, and the door closed. Behind him, with a soft click, the woman looked at the girl. "Are you sure we should trust him?" "We have no choice," the girl whispered. "But maybe this is good. Maybe this is our chance." That night, the woman began to cook. She made something simple, a stew, using what little she had. The smell filled the cold air. It was warm, like home. A tall alien with blue skin entered the room. He sat down and tasted the food. Then something strange happened. He began to cry. This reminds me of my mother's cooking," he said in a shaky voice. "But she died 300 years ago." The woman looked at the girl. "What is this place?" she whispered. The girl didn't answer. She only smiled. But in the shadows, the man with silver eyes watched everything through a screen. He spoke to someone on a communicator. "She's perfect," he said. "Begin phase 2. The kitchen was too quiet. No boiling sounds, no chopping, no laughter, no life. It didn't feel like a place where meals were made. It felt like a trap. The woman, her name was Lena, stood at the stove with her daughter beside her. The little girl's name was May. Lena stirred the pot, but her eyes kept watching the door. It had no handle, only a glowing red circle that blinked softly. May whispered, "They're watching us." "I know," Lena replied. "Let them watch." "I'm not cooking poison." She tasted the stew. It was good, simple, warm, and human. But she didn't cook it with joy. She cooked it with fear. The blue-skinned alien who cried yesterday had returned. He wasn't alone this time. 3 more guests entered. They all sat at a long metal table. They didn't talk. They didn't blink. They just waited. Lena served them quietly. Each took a bite, and then silence again. But their eyes changed. One closed his eyes and smiled. Another whispered, "Sunlight. On the trees of Arcanas, can feel it again." The third alien dropped his spoon and started laughing softly. "You made me feel." "How?" Lena stepped back. "I just cooked food. That's all." "No," said the blue alien. "You did something else. You unlocked memories. You gave us something we forgot." Suddenly, the red circle on the door turned green. It opened, and the man with silver eyes stepped inside. "Leave," he said to the guests. Now, the alien stood and walked out, quiet again. Lena stared at him. "Who are you?" A T didn't answer. Instead, he walked to a panel on the wall and pressed a button. A screen lit up. On it was a contract, long, glowing, written in a strange language. At the top, in bold letters, were the words in English. "Kitchen contract classified. Emotional energy extraction." "What is this?" Lena asked. The man pointed at it. "You will cook. They will eat. We will extract. In return, you live. Your daughter lives. Refuse. And we erase you both." May grabbed her mother's hand tightly. "You're using my food to do something else, aren't you?" Lena said. "This is not just about meals. It's about control." The man nodded. "Double quotes, emotions are power," he said. "Most creatures forget how to feel. Your food brings it back. But too much feeling, it makes them weak. Obedient. We need that." He stepped closer. "You, Lena, are not just a cook. Your file says you worked in Earth's food research labs before the collapse." Lena's face turned pale. "That file was destroyed. Not to us." The screen changed, again showing photos of Lena, years ago, working in a white lab, holding test dishes, writing formulas. "You were part of Project Memory Spice," he said. "You made food that stores emotions, feelings you can taste. That was your work." Lena said nothing. "Now," he said, handing her a digital pen. "Sign the contract." May looked at her mother. "Don't sign, Mom." But Lena's hands were shaking. She had no weapons, no way out, no help. And May was watching, so Lena did something else. She took the pen and signed. The screen blinked green. The door opened. "You're free to move inside the building now," the man said. "But don't try to escape. You'll be watched. Always." He turned and left. May looked at her mother. "Why did you sign it?" Lena didn't answer right away. She walked to the kitchen wall and tapped one of the spice jars. It looked normal, but it wasn't. She unscrewed the bottom. Inside was a tiny silver chip. She whispered, "Because they think I'm just a cook. But I remember everything. And I still have this." "What is it?" May asked. "A recipe," Lena said. "For what, Lena?" smiled for the first time in days. For freedom. That night, while the building slept, Lena started writing fake recipes. On the surface, they looked normal. But inside, they were coded hidden messages, chemical tricks, slow poisons for machines. And one secret dish that could bring the whole. System down, she called it Dish Zero. But the question remained, who really was the man with silver eyes? And why did he want feelings to be controlled? Inside the kitchen, the smell was warm, but the walls were cold. Lena cooked, but not just with her hands. She cooked with her memories. Each slice, each stir, each spice. It was a moment from her past. She was not following the contract exactly. She was building something else, something hidden inside every dish. The tall, silver-eyed man didn't return that day. But his machines were always watching. Tiny red lights blinked from the ceiling. The walls hummed softly. Lena whispered to May, "They want our food. But we'll give them something more dangerous." May tilted her head. "What's more dangerous than food?" Lena smiled. A story. Flashback begins. That night, Lena made a soup she hadn't cooked in years. The smell hit her first. It was the same soup she made for her husband. The night before the Earth War began. Carrots, garlic, soft meat. A dash of yellow powder that didn't exist anymore. As the pot boiled, Lena's eyes filled with tears. Not because of the smoke, but because the smell carried a memory. She remembered laughter, the clink of spoons, and the way her husband used to hum when he ate. She put one spoonful in a small bowl and set it aside. For who? May asked. For the past, Lena said, the next morning. A new guest arrived. He wasn't like the others. He didn't walk in. He floated. Half of his body was machine. Wires ran through his chest. One of his eyes was a spinning green lens. "I'm Unit K7, he said in a flat voice, testing food sample. He sat without waiting. Lena served him the soup. He took one bite. And then his metal hand shook. His lens flickered. He stopped moving. Then suddenly he laughed a deep, human laugh. "I remember. My sister," he said. "I remember the song she used to play." He looked at Lena. "How did you do that?" That memory was deleted. Lena didn't answer. She just smiled softly. After he left, a new door appeared on the wall. It opened slowly, revealing a clean white room with a glowing table. On the table was a book, not made of paper, but of light. It opened by itself. Each page had a recipe. Each recipe had a number. But one page was different. It had no words, only a small fingerprint. "Mark, touch it," May whispered. Lena hesitated. Then slowly pressed her finger on the glowing mark. Suddenly, the table changed. A 3D image rose from it, showing her old lab on Earth. There she was. Younger, standing with two scientists. One of them said, "The spice holds memories. Food becomes a carrier. This is the future of emotional storage." Then the image changed. Explosions, fire, the lab falling, soldiers running, and then darkness. Lena stepped back. "They have everything," she whispered. "All our research, all our past." Later, when Lena returned to the kitchen, a package waited for her. Inside it, jars of spices she hadn't seen since Earth's fall. On each label, memory tag 01, 02, 03. She held up a jar. It glowed faintly. May looked scared. "What are they?" "Feelings," Lena said. "Locked inside ingredients. Someone saved them." That night, she made something new. A dish her husband called Starlight Rice. She used memory tag 01. When the next guest arrived, silent female alien with no mouth, Lena served her. The alien took one bite. Her skin turned pink. A soft song played from her body, and a voice echoed in the room. "Mommy, don't go. Stay with me." It was a child's voice. Not from Earth, not human, but full of sadness. The alien fell to her knees and began to glow. A memory had come back. Powerful one, back in the shadows. The silver-eyed man finally returned. He watched everything from a dark room. Hands behind his back. A machine beside him said emotional response at 92%. Memory reactivation successful. He nodded. Good. Begin data transfer. And prepare. The child. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, May touched one of the jars without telling her mom. Her fingers lit up. A soft whisper entered her mind. You were born for more than this. She pulled her hand back quickly, breathing hard. Lena noticed. What did you do? I don't know, May said. But the jar spoke to me. Lena stepped forward and looked at the label. Her heart skipped a beat. Memory, tag, 7, May's birth. She grabbed the jar and opened it. Inside was a silver seed, not a spice. A code, asterisk, the kitchen was quiet again. 2. Quiet Lena didn't like. It for 3 days. No new guests arrived. The machine still watched. The lights still blinked. The food still cooked, but something had changed, and Lena could feel it. That night, May didn't sleep. She sat on the cold floor, holding the small silver seed they found inside memory tag. 07. It pulsed with light. Like a heartbeat, May whispered, Mom. What am I? Lena sat beside her. She held her close. Her voice was soft. You're my daughter. That's all that matters. May shook her head. But that jar had my birth memory. And this seed speaks to me when I close my eyes. Lena didn't answer right away. Then she stood up and opened a hidden drawer behind the spice. Racked on inside was an old photo. Torn, burned, it showed Lena, standing next to a tall man in a white lab coat, not her husband. His name was Dr. Ellos, a scientist. An alien May's biological father. Back in the control room, the silver-eyed man stared at a screen. May's image flickered. He whispered. She touched the seed. It's awake. A machine beside him said, Do you wish to extract the girl? Now? Not yet, he replied. Let the mother finish dish 0. Then we take them both. The plan begins. Lena stood in front of the stove. Her fingers moved slowly, measuring, chopping, stirring. But inside her mind, she wasn't thinking about cooking. She was thinking about escape. She had tested the kitchen walls. Soundproof. Steel. But one of the vents near the ceiling blew warm air. And had no sensors, too small for her, but just the right size for May. She whispered, Tonight, you crawl through that vent. Find the server room. Look for anything with my name. Download. It May nodded. And then we burn the kitchen down. May's eyes widened. But they'll stop us. Lena smiled. Not if they're crying. That evening, Lena made a dish called Dish 0. She poured everything into it. Real spice. Memory tags. A drop of her own blood. It wasn't food anymore. It was a trigger. She served it to the guards first. They laughed. Finally, something spicy. One joked. But the moment they took a bite, their faces changed. One fell to the floor, laughing and crying. Another began screaming the name of his dead brother. The third whispered, Mother, I miss you, and dropped his weapon. Lena leaned in and said softly, Taste the truth. She turned to May. Now, go. Inside the vents, May crawled fast. Her hands were shaking. Her knees hurt. The silver seed around her neck glowed brighter the deeper she went. Finally, She found it a large room with blinking blue cubes and humming towers. A sign on the door read, "Memory Bank Vault, Humanoid Class." She opened the panel. Inside, a screen lit up. It showed files. LENA_027MA_unit_test_1spice_projects he copied. Everything onto a crystal chip. Suddenly, alarms screamed. She ran. Back in the kitchen, Lena had locked the kitchen from inside. The fire was growing. Spices burned. Steam hissed. The guests, guards, even machines were now paralyzed, crying, laughing, frozen by waves of emotion they didn't understand. But the sleeved man wasn't affected. He walked into the flames. He faced Lena. "You cooked emotion into fire," he said. "Very clever." Lena pointed a blade at him. "You lied. This wasn't about food. This was about my daughter." He nodded. "She is not your daughter alone. She is the key. The last living emotional core. You and I created her, Lena, in that lab." Lena's hand shook. "Then you should know. She'll never be yours." Escape May dropped from the ceiling vent, chip in hand. Lena grabbed her, and they ran through the burning hallway. Smoke, screams, alarms. But behind them, the silver-eyed man didn't follow. He just watched the fire rise, whispering, "Run now, but you'll come back. The universe will need her." They escaped through a garbage tunnel and out into the black streets of the alien city. Lena looked at the sky. No stars, just smoke. But she smiled. "We're out, for now." May held up the chip. "What do we do with this?" Lena looked at her. "We find the other recipes, and we finish what we started." The city outside the base was not free, only pretended to be. Lena and May moved through narrow alleys made of glowing metal and dust. Drones hovered overhead. Screens on every wall played silent news in alien languages. Faces of creatures who never smiled. Their eyes always watching. May clutched the memory chip like it was gold. Inside it were files about her. Recipes, project names. A secret about her birth that even her mother didn't fully understand. They found shelter in an old food station abandoned. Broken. The sign above the door read "Taste of Earth," barely hanging on. Inside, dust covered the counters and vines crept up the walls. But the stove still worked. Lena sat down, exhausted. "We're not safe here for long." May looked at the seed around her neck. It was glowing stronger now. The pulse matched her heartbeat. "I don't feel the same anymore," she said quietly. Her mother turned. "What do you mean? When I sleep, I see things. Not dreams, memories. But they're not mine." Lena didn't answer. She knew what it meant. The emotional core had awakened back in the memory lab. They had tried to grow human feelings from data, love, grief, joy, all placed in a living form. But machines couldn't carry emotions. They needed a host with a soul. They chose Lena, and they created May. But no one expected May to survive this long, or to feel more than any other being. At that moment, they heard the sound, deep, sharp, vibrating through the floor. Not footsteps, marching outside the broken window. Hundreds of machines filled the streets. Large, armored, silent. Each one wore the same glowing mark. A teardrop inside a flame. A new weapon unit had arrived. And they weren't here for war. They were here to harvest feelings. Lena grabbed May's hand. "We need to go now." But May didn't move. Her eyes were glowing. Not with fear, with memory. She looked out the window and her voice changed. "They feel nothing. But I can give them too much. I can turn them off." Lena stepped back. "What are you saying?" May walked outside. Alone, the machines turned. They locked onto her. She raised the silver seed in her hand, closed her eyes. The first machine stepped forward, then froze. The second one shook. Sparks flew from its joints, one by one. The army of emotion-hungry robots began to collapse, weeping. From every speaker in the city, a voice echoed. It wasn't human. It wasn't machine. It was hers. This is what sadness feels like. Is what you wanted. Now take it all. The machines didn't explode. They simply dropped to their knees and stayed there silent and broken. May collapsed. Lena caught her. Her skin was burning. Her eyes glassy. You used too much, Lena whispered. May opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. Only tears. She had just weaponized her own emotions, and it nearly destroyed her. Suddenly, dark shadow passed over them. A ship it landed quietly in front of the building, and from the black smoke stepped the man with silver eyes. He clapped slowly. You unlocked her too early, he said. Now she's unstable. Lena stood in front of her daughter. You're not taking her. I don't need to. She's already changing. You think this was power. It was only the first boil. He dropped a small metal sphere on the ground. It rolled toward them, then unfolded into a screen. It showed a map, 7 cities, all infected with emotional feedback loops. May's pulse, her scream of grief had traveled farther than expected. The cities were falling. The machines were crying. The world was changing, and May had done it all. I warned you, he said. She's the future, and the future doesn't ask for permission. He walked away. Lena held May close. I won't let them use you. We'll fix this together. May looked up weakly. What if I can't be fixed? Lena wiped her tears. Then we'll cook a new world. One feeling at a time. The wind carried the smell of ash dot, and somewhere, far above, new eyes were watching. Not from this planet, but from another. Something bigger was coming, and May had just lit the fire. Asterisk smoke curled across the ruined city like forgotten music slow. Drifting, searching for something still alive, May sat alone on the rooftop, knees to her chest, watching broken machines below her twitch and shiver like insects drowning in emotion. The streets weren't quiet anymore. They moaned. They remembered. She was only 10 years old, but in the last 48 hours, she had made entire cities cry. Lena stood behind her, silent, holding a steaming bowl of soup and shaking hands. Eat something, she said. May didn't move. I'm scared to feel, the girl whispered. Because when I feel, others break. Lena knelt beside her, putting the bowl down. You're not dangerous, she said softly. They made you feel alone, May. That's what's dangerous. Far below them, lights blinked from a ruined Cums tower. It had survived the emotional wave barely. Its antenna twitched and sparked like it was trying to speak. Then a voice broke through, flat and metallic. Transmission, galactic uplink re-established. Message incoming. Warning, unauthorized emotion spike detected in Sector 9, Origin, Earth Hybrid Core. Response, interplanetary lockdown initiated. Lena and May looked at each other. They weren't just being hunted now. They were being noticed by the rest of the galaxy. That night, Lena worked in silence. Not in a kitchen, but in a cold, metal bunker below the old food station she had found. A lab there, abandoned, still powered. She wasn't cooking anymore. She was designing inside a sealed pot on the table. A small lump of white dough pulsed gently like a heartbeat. It wasn't just bread. It was a living emotional vessel, a new kind of message. Not a broadcast. A meal that would carry truth to anyone who tasted it. May walked in, her eyes dim, the silver seed around her neck no longer glowing. There. Coming, she said. Lena turned. Who? Not machines. Not soldiers. People. What kind of people? Angry ones? Afraid ones? Okay. Some want to eat what I feel. Others want to erase me. Lena reached into a crate and pulled out 7 glowing jars, each one labeled in a different language. Each one held a different memory. Then we serve them something they've never tasted, she said. Unity. May frowned. But they'll know it's a trick. It's not a trick if it's real. Lena began mixing. She didn't use any spices from the memory project. These ingredients came from her own past. Salt from her childhood by the ocean. Herbs from her grandmother's garden. Oil from a ruined earth kitchen sealed before the war. As she stirred, the lab's old speakers crackled again. This is the collective. We have detected your presence. Step forward and surrender the hybrid core. You have 1 hour. After that, no one will remember your name. May stepped closer to her mother. They're going to erase our story. Lena didn't look up. Then we feed it to them before they try. 50 minutes later, a crowd began to form outside the bunker. Not all were enemies. Some were refugees from the emotional wave, still weeping, broken, confused. Others were bounty hunters, holding weapons made of ice and silence. And a few were watchers from planets unknown. Tall, strange, without names. Lena opened the doors. She said nothing. Instead, she carried a tray of food, steam rising like breath, golden and strange, glowing faintly at the edges. She offered the first bite to a boy who had no voice. He took it. His eyes widened. Then he laughed. Real, full, human laughter. The sound was contagious. An alien in a silver mask stepped forward, ready to attack but stopped. The scent of the food made him drop his weapon. Tears ran down his mask. Another came forward. Then another. They ate, and they remembered who they were before war. Before hunger, before control. It wasn't magic, it was memory made edible. But deep in the crowd, the man with silver eyes watched. He wasn't crying. He wasn't laughing. He was waiting. When the last plate was served, he stepped forward and said one word. Enough. The wind stopped. Time slowed. May fell to her knees. You tried to fix them with taste, he said to Lena, but you can't cook away pain. Lena looked up. No, but I can make it mean something. He stepped aside, and behind him, the sky tore open. Not a ship, a gate, and on the other side, a world made entirely of memory-floating cities of thought, storms of laughter, oceans made of voices. The final phase had begun. May was no longer just a child. She was the signal, and someone something on the other side had been waiting for her all along. The sky did not open with sound. It unfolded. Like a soft page turning in a book no one remembered writing above the ruins. Where feelings had once been factories, the gates shimmered blue, endless, humming in a language older than words. Shapes moved behind it, not ships, not stars, memories, alive. Waiting, May stood still, eyes wide. The silver seed on her chest now spun like a tiny sun, pulling at her heart. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from recognition. She had been there before, not in body. In memory, Lena took her hand, holding tighter than ever. You don't have to go, she whispered. I already went, May replied, her voice quiet. This already happened. The silver-eyed man stepped forward, the crowd parting like water. No one tried to stop him. No one could. He spoke without anger, without pride. She is not meant to stay in your world, he said. She belongs to the archive. She was never yours. Lena stood in front of May. Then why does she feel like mine? He didn't answer, because deep down even, he didn't know. May stepped toward the gate. The ground beneath her feet didn't break, didn't glow. It just accepted her, like it had been waiting. One step, then another. With each step, something peeled off her skin. Not fleshed-out memories, her first laugh, her first nightmare. The smell of her mother's food, the warmth of a blanket, the sharpness of loneliness, all rising off her like steam. All feeding the gate, Lena called out, "May, don't let it take all of you." May stopped, then turned back and smiled. Not a child's smile, not a weapon's grin, but the smile of someone who finally understood what she was made of. She reached into her pocket, pulled out the last recipe card, one her mother had written in secret. Never cooked. Dish, home ingredients. One story, one goodbye. One promise. Instructions, share warm. Serve once. Never forget, she turned to the crowd. I'm not leaving, she said. I'm becoming. Then she stepped into the gate. The light didn't explode. It folded inward, swallowing May whole like a letter into a mailbox. And then silence. Lena stood frozen, her hands still outstretched, her lips still forming her daughter's name. But before the silence could settle into grief, the seed fell. It landed softly in Lena's palm, still warm, still spinning. And then she heard it. A whisper, not from outside, not from the wind, from inside the seed. Whenever you miss me, cook. The last dish, I'll come back, as a taste, a memory, a voice in the soup. Years passed, not many, just enough. The world didn't end, but it changed. The machines stopped hunting. The silver-eyed man vanished. The archive gate never opened again. And in a small food house built on the ruins of war, people came from all species, all corners of space, just to eat one dish, served only on rainy nights, only by one woman. She never told them the full recipe, only said this: if you ever loved someone so deeply it hurt, then you've already tasted it. Outside, children played under dim suns, and somewhere far beyond stars, in a world made of thought and memory, a girl walked barefoot through floating libraries, writing new recipes with each step. She had no name there, but in every bowl of warm soup across 1,000 worlds. She was remembered, not as a weapon, not as a hybrid, but as a feeling called home.